All right, guys, if you are planning to go to Australia on a working holiday visa, this is the video for you. This video is so that you can have the best year possible in Australia and to avoid the major mistakes that I made last year. And really, what I wish I knew last year. I had some good times in Australia, but I also had some really, really bad times. And this is what I wish I knew. Right. The first bit of advice that I would give to you that I wish I knew is that the minimum funds is absolutely essential. Mainly, and this is in hindsight, I thought the minimum funds was so that you had some kind of respite so that you could get there, get to Australia and be doing shit and, actually see the cities and do all of this. And in hindsight, that is not what the minimum funds is for. The minimum funds is to give you a launching pad to get out of the hostels. Now, before you arrive in Australia, you've heard of it as some backpacking haven, some backpacker's dream. I don't know where it's got this reputation from because the hostels suck. The hostels are some of the worst I've ever stayed in, and it's not just me saying this shit. Every person I met had something bad to say about them. When you get into your room, you're gonna see, if your trip's anything like mine, you're gonna be seeing people stressing out about how they can't afford to pay the next day and the next day. A lot of times hostels sell out one day and then they're available the next day. So you've got people packing their bags and shit, people stressed out, their brains stressed out of their eyeballs. Oh, mate, I am so glad to not be staying in those hostels no more. And it works out to be cheaper to have your own flat share, to be sharing a flat share with other people, rather than it would be to be sharing these terrible hostels in one room with 15 other people. I swear on my life, if you don't have minimum funds saved up, I really think you might rue that decision, because of the people that I saw that thrived in Australia had money. The people like me who came with less than $1,000, we struggled. I struggled a lot during that year. I'm glad to be out of Australia, because I was living like a low down peasant in Australia, particularly after January, where I couldn't even afford hostels. I was sneaking into a 24-hour gym and sleeping in the changing room. True story. Come here with a minimum fund and then get yourself out of these hostels. You're going to see what I mean. After 3 weeks, I'd love to see you again. You're going to realize the hostels suck. They suck balls, okay? All right. Now, the second point, I haven't even written this down, but it's just come to my brain, is that any work is better than no work. Kevin Samuels used to say, empty stomach and pride don't mix. Let me tell you, sleeping in hostels in Australia and pride don't mix. Get yourself a full-time job, doing anything initially. Just bed your feet in Australia. Trust me, the moment you can actually start working out here, your life gets better, because the minimum wage is so high. If you are taking your money from back home to Australia, it isn't worth as much over there. It isn't worth jack all, in fact. So I would say find a job out there like your life depended on it, because otherwise you're going to be watching money fly out the door and you're going to be thinking, what am I getting for all of it? I saved so hard for this. What am I getting in return? I'm sleeping in a hostel, buying groceries and shit, and I'm spending a fortune doing it, living like a peasant. In Australia, this is what I didn't realize. Australians view hostels the way we back in England view hostels. If you're English and you're sleeping in an English hostel, your life isn't going to plan. And in a lot of these hostels, particularly a place called the Village Glebe in Sydney, they use them as makeshift homeless shelters, bro. I'm not even joking. I am not even joking. All right. So, thirdly, and this is something that I really wish I knew, is I would have a plan of what you want to do in Australia that you can't do back home. You know, you could, in Australia, they got great white sharks in the oceans. You could jump in a cage and have them swim by your face, for example. You could hold a koala. You could visit the outback. You could go to Tasmania. You could, what else could you do? You could, my mind's gone blank, but there's plenty of shit you can do in Australia. Right, that's it. You could go 2 hours away from Sydney and learn how to surf, spend a week doing that, meeting friendly Australians, learning how to surf, shaking hands, meeting nice people. You could do that. Don't do what I did and just get pissed up and shag, you know, some range of women, some good, some very bad, some mud skippers like I did. Don't do that. Have a plan of what you actually want to do, something that you can remember forever. Even if it's picking fruit or something, just do something you can't do back home. All right? And this one is for the ones of you that are perhaps not social butterflies. Not everyone's an extrovert. I know I'm certainly not. You know, I can have my moments, but oftentimes, particularly if I feel uncomfortable around someone, you know, I can be very, very introverted at that point. This one's for you guys, and that is to, and what I really would advise you to do, and that is join clubs to meet people and just to not isolate yourself. You are on the other side of the world, chances are, you know, you don't know anyone. The more people you can meet and just loosen up yourself and keep the social muscles supple and keep them moving, the better. Do not isolate yourself, because you can get down real easy. And if you're working full time and I would recommend you to do jiu-jitsu, boxing, even hot yoga, something where your mind and body are both getting worked and you're meeting people. The mind, body and soul are absolutely linked. If you let one go to wreck and ruin, the others will soon follow. I would recommend jiu-jitsu particularly. If you're in Melbourne, you could train at Absolute MMA. That's what I did. They got some really cool people there, and I'd love to train there again. That is for you guys, okay? Do not isolate yourself out here. And I think if you follow this advice on top of using your common sense, you can have a really good time in Australia, okay? I plan on doing a second year. I saw enough of what I liked out there to want to do it again, and I don't want to, because I kind of let the year go to shit a little bit, and I don't want that to be my memory of this place, because I think it's got real tremendous potential. There's a reason why 1 million people from England are now living in Australia, because it's got real, particularly in Melbourne, it's got a real cool vibe. People are a lot more laid back. It's a lot better than back home, and I have no aspirations to go back to England. None. Zero. Okay? But just to recap, the minimum funds are absolutely essential. Don't be living like a low-down peasant. Find your own place. Get out of the hostels. Get out of the hostels, okay? And also have a plan of what you want to do. Do some Australian shit. Don't just do the same thing you would back home and just be paying a fortune to do it, spending a fortune, sleeping in hostels and buying groceries and shit. Have a plan of what you want to get out of the year. Join clubs and meet people, okay? Do not isolate yourself and have a good time, all right? Thank you. If you're watching it to the end, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Have a good year in Australia, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.